I was talking the other day on the Instagram subscriber channel. I shared a post about a really common challenge that can come up, which is the brain throwing up not an intrusive thought about something totally imaginary, but throwing up a real event, something often from the past that we might regret and or was very painful, and whether because something happened to us or something we did to other people. And the brain seems to love that, to throw up things from the past. And it can be so helpful to recognize that one of the reasons it does that is because we are not time traveling janitors. So we can't go into the past to clean something. But when that kind of wrong thing, that contamination in the past pops up, often then our reaction is, oh no, how do I get reassurance that this will be cleaned away? Or what can I do to clean it away? To resolve it, to eliminate it. And so this is one of the brain's favorite things to throw up, because we'll just do compulsion and compulsion and compulsion, trying to clean the past. Right? It is just the classic contamination pattern, except the thing that's contaminated is not our hands or our body or our home, it's our past. What can be useful in those moments when the brain throws up something contaminated from the past, it's useful to recognize why that matters to us, why we care. And also to recognize we only exist right here in the present. So all we can do is choose what we want to give right now. And so, yeah, using those reminders from the past. So yeah, we're not going to do the compulsions the brain's pushing us for, but we can recognize in that. We recognize what we care about, and we can give our attention to that right now. We can pivot to that. So yeah, maybe we'll come back to talking about, touching some painful experiences and pivoting to what we actually want to give in the present today as we're exploring. Welcome to everybody that's dropping by in the chat. Kimberly, good morning. Blooper, I hope all's well with you. Heil, you said you're watching us on set at work. Thanks for taking us to work with you today. I hope you have a great day on set. Michael? Yeah, you see your brain is up to that this week. Yeah, I mean, shadow work can be really valuable when we think, or when we recognize that, yeah, these things that keep popping up, they are information that can be useful. It helps us see, oh, okay, because whether it's something that happened in the past that maybe we regret, or it's something painful that happened to us in the past. Also with that, we may recognize, oh, I really wish I controlled that, or I really wish I could handle that differently. And we see something there, something inside of us that we can touch, while also recognizing that we can only take action here in the present. So learning how to touch that, but then also not go off on some time traveling adventure in the past, like scrub the past toilet, but instead look at what we want to give and create here in the present. Oh, Kimberly, don't cringe at all. Even that, that's such an opportunity for compassion. I can think of all sorts of things. I remember all sorts of things I've done in the past where I just want to give that guy a hug. Be like, hey, yeah, that was embarrassing or unnecessary, but I understood why he did that. And yeah, he didn't know any better. But now, with the knowledge we have and with the knowledge that we can share with each other, we can give those past selves a hug and then pivot to something that's more useful in the present. Of course, also by us coming together, by talking about these things, hopefully we speed up the process of that, and we can share those skills, broadly around the world. So let's do that today. If you're joining Brain Tech Support live for the first time, this is where We bring our brains in their original packaging into the shop, and we talk about any technical issues that we might be having with them, any issues and challenges we might be having with handling the experience of being human. And the experience of being human is about having so many emotions and intrusive thoughts and voices and images and uncomfortable physical sensations and everything else that I didn't mention there. Every stuff that we can possibly have. And we learn how to have those experiences while doing the things that we really care about in the world, giving what we want to give to ourselves and to those around us. And that is what Brain Export Lab is all about. So Raja, welcome. Vessel, I hope you're doing well too. Lucas, it's great to see you. Pom Pom Kitty, I hope you're doing amazing too. And Jorpanzer, hey. Hey reminds me, I don't know if anybody has seen the new Mr. and Mrs. Smith series. It is a really interesting take. There are some scenes that are similar to the movie Mr. and Mrs. Smith, if you've seen that. But what it really is I would say like an interesting, excellent, like very realistic look at a lot of relationship dynamics that come up, all the time when we're exploring relationships and mental health. So I really liked Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and the reason George that reminded me, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, their handler is called Hi. So Hi always starts off the messages with Hi, and then explains something, some mission they have to do that's quite terrible. But hey. Bread. Isn't bread wonderful? Bread is your avatar a slice of bread? Thank you for bringing the bread. He said, how to forget a negative thought you want to forget, but fail to do so. It just comes up in your mind out of nowhere. Oh, bread. You know what? We were just talking about that. And you probably just arrived. Maybe didn't hear that piece. You can also, if you go back later and listen to the stream from the start, but we don't have to forget it. So trying to forget it is just gonna make it keep coming up, right? Because we're trying to clean it away. What can be more useful is just to notice, maybe that's a thought that disturbs me because of this reason or that reason. And that's because I really care about something that I want to give to the world or I want to give to myself. So I'm going to go and give that. Actually, it's so useful that negative thought popped up. It's a great reminder of the things I care about. So I'm going to go and do those things. We don't need to get rid of it at all, unless you want it to keep popping up. Saeed, good morning. Khan, it's good to see you too. He said, you know how flirting is full of uncertainty, especially because women are usually very indirectly polite rather than rejecting outright. Oh, so you're not off to a good start. You start generalizing very broadly about women. What's the best way to navigate the uncertainty of wondering if I said the wrong thing that turned her off while legitimately making my text to her more attractive? This sounds so wrapped up. Scott, so notice how you mentioned uncertainty, but then threw in like such a broad generalization about women, which is to try to give you certainty. The second message there's a lot of trying to control going on there. So let's take a step back from that. I would ask, if you're exploring dating, what do you want to give to the other person? How do you want to express yourself? Because if you're trying to control the other person, that is going to, it's going to put this pressure on your brain to try to figure out and chase certainty and control. But also it's probably also just going to keep people at a distance because, we don't like to be controlled by others. So what do you want to express in dating messages? Joy Pansy said something I heard on a podcast the other day was that it's a good idea to use problems and fixing them as a driver for change. is the problem with OCD that this just becomes a runaway pattern? I would expect, so yeah, you could say like OCD is a runaway pattern of it, but even if somebody, I wouldn't agree with what they said. It's a good idea to use problems and fixing them as a driver for change. Like that's so limiting, because as we always talk about, like avoiding a fear doesn't create a good thing. And so if there's a problem, we may be really motivated to change. If somebody lights my apartment on fire, I'll be really motivated to change my location. And so yeah, there'll be a significant change. I won't be in the place I was before. But that's very limited fuel and very reactive, because you always need problems then to change. It's going to always then keep you searching for more problems and bigger problems. But also it's limiting because, like I was saying, avoiding a bad thing doesn't create a good thing. And so if we're only fixing a problem, we're just taking ourselves up to a kind of like level, kind of like if we look at it as a hole. So if the hole was the problem, all we're doing is filling in the hole. And now, oh, okay, there's no more hole, there's no problem. We haven't built anything. All we've done is fill the hole. And so I would always, even if, somebody was able to make a change reacting to a problem, which is, yeah, totally doable, I wouldn't expect really incredible results from that. And then they're going to have to go find another problem. Georgie said, so 3 weeks ago, I heard some bad news and I feel like my OCD came back. I know what you think about themes, but my question is, can OCD be about death, worrying, loved ones? It feels different. Well, one of the things that it really helped me with understanding OCD is we're just trying to find a way to control and bring certainty. If we experience something really out of control, like some sudden bad news that we weren't expecting, it's very natural that our brain will try to help us by bringing control. And so there's a lot of different ways this can come up. So for instance, if a big change happens in somebody's life unexpectedly, very likely they're going to have a lot of intrusive thoughts popping up. Maybe about things they used to do compulsions around. My OCD came back, I was done with this intrusive thought. Why is it here again? But that's exactly why it's there again. The brain knows, oh, you used to find control by fixing this. And now there's something in your life that you don't control. So here's that old thing you know how to control. And then we'll do a bunch of control. So it kind of becomes this self-soothing habit. When there's a lot of uncertainty, we'll chase control. And that might be doing a lot of ruminating, a lot of checking, a lot of some old compulsions that we've done before. Stefan, hello. Hope you're doing well. Bread, you're welcome. I'm glad the video's helped. Please send bread. Kimberly, he said, if we should avoid toxic people, how do we know if someone is toxic? I don't know. Unless somebody has been, hanging around in their underwear in a nuclear reactor, it's going to be very difficult to know if they're toxic. So one, it helps to really know what that means. If we get into being afraid of people and afraid of topics that people can bring up, that can be really limiting to us. So what we can do is trust ourselves, identify our values, practice setting boundaries, understand, hey, I am going to set boundaries, I am going to take care of myself, and then trusting ourselves. So it is very much like jumping into the water, saying I don't know if any of these waves are bad. but I'm going to practice swimming through them. I don't know if there are any fish under here that are going to try to bite me, but I'm going to trust myself to explore and handle what comes up and to set boundaries that are useful for me. So yeah, if there's any fear around toxic people, look at, like what is the fear there? Because there might be some uncertainty about how to take care of ourselves. And then that's an opportunity to look at, okay, I'm afraid that this person maybe will take advantage of me. Okay, well, what values am I going to set and what boundaries am I going to set to help myself not get taken advantage of and to give and create the things I want to create in this situation or this workplace? And yeah, then we trust ourselves to explore. Stefan said, trying to navigate sensory motor OCD, I'm running into some trouble. I've always found it difficult to return to what I was doing when my thoughts tell me I'll manually blink the rest of the activity. Oh, and he said, I really want to figure that out. And when I don't, I continue to ruminate on it. How can I refocus gently without putting such difficult judgments on the thoughts? Yeah, so one, Stefan, is I really want to figure that out. What if you don't have to figure that out? Another thing that could be interesting to look at, so have you explored wanting to blink while doing activities, or at the moment are you hoping you don't start to pay attention to it? But yeah, have you explored sitting down to work and be like, oh, I really hope I blink the whole time I'm studying or something like that? Yeah, what if you wanted that to happen? Rami, thank you so much. Thanks for dropping by. Saeed said, now that I'm not making decisions based on fear, I find myself lazy more often than I'd like to. How should one approach laziness and resting in this case? Yeah, so it's really common. So what we do is the old engine that was fueled by fear, we throw it out. Then we have a car and it has no engine. So it's very common that when we're making a bunch of changes, we run into this period of time where we feel kind of unmotivated and not sure where to go and what to do. This is why, like I was talking about earlier, using a problem as fuel is very limiting. That was the old way. We throw out that engine. So yeah, building an engine that can run on values, that's proactive, at first will seem slow because we had this amazingly fast, super fear-fueled engine. But it was really polluting up our lives. So we got rid of it. Now we've got to play around with the different parts and pieces that are going to be part of that new proactive engine, but it's going to take time and it's going to be about you pushing it. So there is a responsibility here, which can feel, kind of challenging at first, because in the past we just had to wait for a problem. We had to wait for something to go wrong. That's why often we would procrastinate on things. If we procrastinate and then there's a deadline, then we're like, I've got to get it done or I'll fail or I'll get fined or something like that. Okay, I'm going to stay up all night and get it done. Right, that really powerful engine that polluted up everything. Now it is up to us to proactively do things. So what kind of parts are going to be, in your new engine? What values, what practices, what actions, and then also what supports. What's going to make it possible to do things proactively, consistently? What's going to make it possible to try things? As you're starting to push the car along, you're going to try some things and they're not going to work out. And that's not a huge failure. We don't have to go back to the old engine. We're just going to try new things. But it's really beneficial to have supports in place so we can keep pushing that. That's why things like the mental fitness Discord server, I always enjoy connecting with the community so much and seeing how people are working on building their engines. I think it's really useful that people can see other people are also working on building those engines and that it's not a simple process, but that there's people there to share about that with, who could share, hey, here's a component for the engine that really helped me. There's that component over there that was part of the old engine. I don't need it anymore. So yeah, if you have supports like that, if anybody wants to join the mental fitness Discord server, send me a message, either email or DM on Instagram, and I'll send you an invite link. Oh, said you watched the 2-year ceremony honoring Tai, and at the end of the ceremony, as they came out of Tai's hut, who did I spy standing on the porch? But Mark Freeman. Such a delay to see you. I was there. I didn't realize I was in any video of the ceremony, but yeah, it was really nice. It was a fascinating ceremony at Thich Nhat Hanh's root temple in Hue, Vietnam. I guess it would have been about 2 weeks ago. There was a ceremony to mark 2 years since his passing. And so there were thousands of people there from all around the world. And it's a really neat temple as far as temples go, because it's kind of further out in the countryside. It's surrounded by a very old cemetery that was for the eunuchs. Because at one time, Hue, until the French invaded, Hue was the capital, the imperial capital of Vietnam. And from the palace, the eunuchs had the cemetery, and of course, eunuchs do not have descendants, so they don't have someone to pray for them. So I think the idea is the temple, the monks were there to pray for people who had passed from the palace that didn't have descendants. And so you go to the temple, and yeah, there's this really beautiful gate by a pond, and then the temple buildings are up on a hill, and they've built there both a kind of a small temple or shrine, so you would say like where Thich Nhat Hanh has been enshrined, and then behind it. This is a really neat thing. If anybody gets a chance to go there, they've kind of constructed his hut. I believe it's a replica of the hut he had at Plum Village in France. And there's his bed there, and there's his desk there where he'd write, and then it's a library. It has all of his books and writing as well. And I know that actually I saw a lot of people, where I saw people crying and really having a special moment was actually at the hut, at the kind of library they've built him. So it was a really, I was really glad that I had the chance to attend. Rami said, if a thought sticks forever, can a person become insane? So Rami, this is an example of checking for reassurance. And far more, if you're interested, so one, there's nothing wrong with going insane. You can see like the stigma there, how stigma around mental health hurts people who are struggling with mental health. But what's gonna create far more problems are the compulsions, like checking for reassurance. Stefan said, how did you gauge if you made progress around your mental health? I find that I do most of the things I want to do, but I'm constantly and chronically anxious. So I gauge progress around mental health by what I give and create, not by fixing something. Because the practice of great mental health is going to be about being ourselves while having any thought or feeling. So I definitely wouldn't measure the presence or absence of thoughts and feelings. It can really help to shift mental health. If you want to explore, like think about physical fitness, you want to explore mental health, for instance, something like meditation. Like I would look at, in my own practice, how I'm exploring meditation and mindfulness, different techniques that I can practice personally, different techniques that I can share with others, going on meditation retreats, things like that. But I wouldn't see that as like fixing something. That's just a skill that's related to how I have a brain that I want to build. So I'd really look at, rather than fixing things, what are the skills and capacities you want to build? And don't pick a skill. So often I've noticed when I ask people, like, what's the skill and capacity you want to build? They're like, I want to build the capacity to be okay with thoughts, which is just, I don't want to be afraid, which is still in that realm of like getting rid of experiences. Yeah. What if it's okay to be anxious? What if you don't have to fix that? Aurora, good morning. Oh, thank you for dropping by to say thank you. I appreciate it. You're very welcome. Georgie, oh, you're welcome. Thank you. I'm honored to be part of your favorite duo. My downward spiral. He said, I have been at times falling into a trap of trying to control my thoughts, but coming on 4 years of this condition, I think I'm having victory over it. I used to use ERP to fight and kill my thoughts. Yeah, that's great. You're letting the thoughts be there. I just want to say, Rick, thank you so much for the donation. I think, and the character is giving like coffee or tea. I appreciate it. I will use that to get some coffee or tea. Thanks so much for stopping by, Rick, and the donation. My downward spiral. Said, I saw a Reddit post of someone asking the benefits and lessons from OCD. And someone said it is suggestive, for some reason I wanted to read that as digestive, suggestive of someone's unconditional care to something which honestly is more suggestive of being controlled by OCD. You can care less with OCD. Downward spiral, is there a question you want to ask there? I just wanted to share that. Stefan said, definitely find myself using ERP to feel like I did something with my day. Always spending my time trying to destroy my thought. What tips do you have to proactively relax? Yeah, so one of the things that can help with proactively relaxing is having a consistent, schedule for it. A consistent practice. So Stefan, actually use your experience from things like sports, things like that. Like a good workout program is going to have rest days. It's going to have, if we're weightlifting, there's going to be a deload week. And it's making sure that's baked in so that those rest periods, we add them to our calendar and we commit to them and we set boundaries around them. And it's really important to rest before we need it. Because if we only rest when we feel terrible, then we've got to keep on feeling terrible, so that we can react to that and give ourselves something we really need, which is rest. Ubed said, I've never had a best friend in my life. When I see people being best friends, I feel jealous. When I enter a group chat where a lot of people talk, they make each other friends, but they don't seem to be interested in me. And so, Ubed, so right now, when you mention people not being interested in you, do you see what you want to give to people in a social situation? Can it be okay to explore that? Zia said, does sinful thoughts are bad? If they are not bad, why it's leading to sin? Well, a thought can't lead to sin. I mean, a person can have no bad thoughts and they can commit a sin. A person gets to make choices. Thoughts are experiences. We can see things inside of our heads, we can see things around us, but ultimately it comes down to us making choices. Philip, good morning. I'm glad you find your way here. Thanks for joining. Deborah said, I would like to join the mental fitness Discord server. Yeah, so I can't share a link on here. If you send me a DM on Instagram, I can give it to you there, or there's a contact form on my website, markfreeman.ca. He said, whenever I feel as though I've done or said something wrong, I get anxious and feel shame and guilt and am embarrassed, and then I ruminate. Yeah, you see, the brain loves to throw up whatever will get us to do compulsions. It's always going to look for those things that'll get us to do compulsions. But if we practice not doing the compulsions around them, then it can stop throwing up that stuff, right? It just treats it like a contamination. The thing is, just like if somebody has like a classic hand washing OCD compulsions, the feeling of being contaminated is actually generated by our brains, right? And the more the person chases that feeling of being clean or that feeling of saying the right things, the more they're gonna feel like it's wrong. And the brain is amazingly good at that. It's amazingly skilled at making us feel whatever wrong feeling is gonna get us to do the compulsions, like the ruminating, the trying to clean, the past conversations. So what we can do is, when we notice the brain telling us that something in the past is contaminated, we can recognize that we care about that, for instance, because we care about other people. We maybe see the fear there, like, oh, I'm afraid of saying the wrong thing because I'm afraid that people won't like me. And then we can recognize that we really care about other people. We really want to build relationships with other people. Well, I can't change anything about the past, but recognizing that I care about relationships with other people, what do I want to do in the present? What do I want to give to others in the present? What do I want to give to my relationships in the present? If you want to play around with it too, because the brain's throwing up a fear like that, because it's like, oh no, like we'll be alone and everybody will reject us. It's like, oh, okay, fine, brain. Like, actually, yeah, everybody's gonna reject me. I'll never get to talk to people again. But I can go to the grocery store right now and talk to the cashier. So I guess I'm really gonna enjoy that conversation with the cashier. I'm gonna ask the cashier questions because this is the last time I'll ever get to talk to anybody before I'm alone. So we touch that big fear. We accept it. Like, yep, it's happened already. And then we show the brain that we can handle it. And then it becomes less afraid of it. Maybe. Zia, it sounds like there's a discussion that might be useful to have either with a therapist or a spiritual leader. Because I'm not going to argue with you about why I don't think anger isn't bad or why thoughts aren't bad. That's not something I'm going to benefit from. But if that's a discussion you want to have, then yeah, somebody like a therapist or counselor could be useful to engage. Max, you said, hey, could you please help me get out of this thought loop? Oh, then you did explain. So you said, my OCD keeps challenging a core moral belief. I try not to ruminate, but then I suddenly start feeling like I believe the opposite because random arguments pop into my head and I feel extreme guilt. So I'm not sure, Max, maybe there's more that you're going to share. Oh wait, let's see if there's more that you're going to share. George is here. Fear of feeling the same feeling or get upset about the same thoughts every day is still a compulsion, right? Yeah, George, like you see like a really common pattern there, right? It really helps to want to have any thoughts or feeling. But if we're afraid of getting some particular thoughts or feeling, it's just the classic contamination pattern. Like, oh, this bad thing shouldn't be here. But then we're constantly checking for it and trying to avoid things. And it's only teaching the brain to think about it more. The brain is just this really great guard dog. So if we say to the brain, hey brain, this is a dangerous thing, protect me from it, your brain's gonna keep trying to protect you from it. But if we're like, yeah, that can be there, then it's just like anything else. And we can go about our days doing things we want to do. Mike. Oh, Mike, thanks so much for the kind words. Oh, it's an honor to have been, part of your journey of recovery. Yeah, I mean, you've shared, about a bunch of the insights and the skills you've been practicing, and it's really great to see. Like, you've taken the concepts and you really see how to, apply them in the real world. So, yeah, congratulations. Thanks for stopping by. Pacific Ocean said, how to build a value-based engine in life. After identifying values, I come across fears or laziness related to actions I want to do. It feels impossible to do them and get into uncertainty. I feel lost. Yeah, so there are a couple things. So one skill, so I was sharing about this practice over on the Instagram subscriber channel the other day. So everybody, there is an Instagram subscriber channel that is a chance to kind of create a customizable set of self-help resources. If you're interested in that, there's a subscribe link on my Instagram channel. So one of the tools I was sharing about the other day is the fact that change needs to be tangible and persistent. So if you remember, when I used to do videos, there are tons of sticky notes behind. And partly that was just as a background, because it was a great background for YouTube videos. But within a lot of the background, there were actually notes that I would use to plan projects. Back in the day, when I was working on change and cutting out compulsions, I had sticky notes all over the place to help remind me. And that was a technique I picked up when working as an innovation and business strategy consultant. Because when companies were doing something new, a best practice we understood was that any person, so not even if they're struggling with their mental health, any person who sees themselves as mentally healthy is terrible at change. And unless the change is visible constantly, so tangible and persistent, they will not do it. And so that was just understood in business. And that's one of the reasons I found it so strange going, into therapy and things like that. And they weren't using a similar understanding of change management. There was just an expectation that you were going to tell somebody to go and completely change their life and do something they'd never done before, while experiencing extreme anxiety and the fear of causing the end of the world. And they would just do it. I'm like, come back next week and tell us how you did. And change does not work like that. So if you're encountering challenges to building that value-based engine and making a big change, and you're trying to do it all in your head, that completely makes sense. That is normal, like more than normal. That is 100% normal. So one of the things to look at is going to be like, how do you get this process outside of your head? Because it is like going into the wilderness and you don't know what the path is. So how can you create signposts for you to show you the path? How can you modify the environment to facilitate that path? And so that'd be one of the places I would begin, starting to get in the practice of whatever it may be for you. For example, on a Sunday night, when you have the week ahead of you, drawing out your journey for that week. What are the actions you're going to do? What are the values that those actions line up with? What are the challenges you might encounter? And what are the supports that are going to help you overcome those challenges? And then, as part of those supports, based on that map you draw out, how can you make that path visible that week? Whether it's actual sticky notes around, whether it's notifications in your calendar that are going to pop up at key moments to remind you what to do, make it real. If we do not make the path real and visible, we will not follow it. The vast majority of people struggle to follow directions when they have a map, when there are signposts up, when they've even visited a place before. What you're doing with making changes with your mental health, you're going into completely new territory that you've never been before. So give yourself all of the maps and signposts possible. Max, you're continuing here. You said, this forced me back into rumination to defend my belief. Initially, I used to get anxious with the doubt, but now the anxiety is less, but this extreme guilt forces me back into rumination. There's a couple things, Max. So yeah, it might be useful to talk with a therapist, if you're working with a therapist, because there's a couple things in there that I wouldn't find helpful, even just the idea that something the brain throws up can force us back into rumination. The brain's always going to throw up stuff. It's always going to throw up whatever makes you choose to do the compulsions. So it's really helpful to see, we choose to do the ruminating. If we see it passively, as the brain throws up something and I'm forced to do it, that'll just keep going. Because the brain will always throw up something, or life will always throw up something. Or oh, that made me do compulsions. But it can help to see that we do it. You also mentioned something there, which is defending a belief. So I have a bunch of videos on this, but it's really helpful to see that the brain is just like a random guy shouting in the street. And he wants to get you into an argument. It's just like a guy shouting out that you're an alligator. And then you go, whoa, I'm not an alligator. That's wrong. Here are reasons why that's wrong. And the guy's like, yeah, tell me all the reasons. That's all the brain is doing. So also notice how you're holding on to a belief. The guy shouting on the street cannot threaten your beliefs. But if you have to defend them to him, if you have to defend beliefs to random thoughts in your brain, then they are very insecure. It implies that they could fall apart. So what if the random guy shouting on the street, it can't actually threaten your beliefs. You don't have to defend them. You can just go live your life. Your beliefs can be part of your practice in life. They're not about arguing with the brain to get some feeling. Michael said, in dating, I feel OCD has a grip on me when it comes to feelings of attraction or lack thereof. I feel like a biological truth, certainty I have to uncover, i.e. whether I'm physically attracted to it or not. So it'll just become like any certainty. If you look at, you could look at OCD across the board as about getting certainty about a feeling, even something as classic as a hand washing compulsion, right? I want to get the feeling of being clean. Depersonalization, derealization, I want to get that feeling, that certainty that I'm real, that I'm me. All of the different themes you can think of. Wanting certainty about ourselves. Certainty we're not going to lose our minds. Certainty we're not going to harm somebody. Certainty we're not going to have a panic attack, etc. That goal, if you want to chase that goal, I've got to have this certainty about whether I'm physically attracted to somebody or not, the brain's just going to mess with you over and over and over again. So it could really help to get a different goal. Because it is saying I want to have certainty I'm clean before I get in a relationship. And that, right? That person would just always feel dirty. Albus said, I hope you're doing well. I need some certainty with regards to this. Is it raining outside your apartment, or is it some washing machine in the back? Or an AC? Oh, yeah, can you hear some kind of noise? So what happened is my headphones, I lost them somewhere, and I don't know where. They must have fallen out somehow. And so I don't have any headphones. I'm just speaking and the microphone. But I guess there are sounds around. There's a general hum in the apartment, which must be the kind of HVAC system. So if you can kind of hear some background noise, but we can just assume it's rain. I hope it sounds nice. Sandra said, I have a question about one conclusion. I think that compulsions create a bad situation with people. Because if I repeat it one time, but the second time it's bad too, how to escape that? Well, Sandra, I find it most useful to cut out compulsions. And that is what, one of the key things we focus on here is that we don't have to do this stuff anymore. We can choose to do things differently. But yeah, if we notice that we've done a compulsion, then we can celebrate that awareness. And yeah, we might, notice some fear or uncertainty about other people noticing our compulsions. And so we can recognize that. We can understand why we're concerned about that, why we're reacting to that uncertainty, but we don't have to react to that either. Growing Beyond, thank you so much for the kind words. Thanks for stopping by. Mike, he said, the recognition that what we feed, we grow is the insight that brought me clarity. Giving attention and energy is how we normally solve problems, but paradoxically with OCD, it perpetuates the cycle. Exactly. We've got to go give that attention to the things we want to grow. If we give our time and energy to fixing a thought or fixing a feeling, we just get more and more things to fix. Moomin, he said, I'm not able to identify the mental compulsions of my OCD. My OCD is about day-to-day normal things. I don't even care about any of my thoughts, but still I'm not able to figure out. So whatever you're doing to figure out, that would be, for instance, an example of one of the mental compulsions. Because what are you trying to figure out and why? Why spend any time and energy on that? It could help to step away from trying to find these kind of rigid categories or labels, that's that kind of compulsion or something like that. It really helped me to see, everything I was doing in my head was wrapped up in the mental illness, because it wasn't about a particular thing, it was about how I was doing it. A huge help, instead of trying to categorize something as oh, you can't think about that, that's a mental compulsion, but other things are not, was to instead just look at time spent in head. If we're spending time in our head, just generally on stuff, we, absolutely won't be bothered by it, won't find that it creates anxiety, etc. We'll probably often like it, but we're just spinning those wheels up there, and that spinning and getting stuck up on our head is what's going to make us feel really anxious, is going to make us feel really detached from the world, because we're always living in a different world, an imaginary one. Panagiyata said, it's the third time I'm dealing with OCD after 3 years of being clean. A thought came and I started analyzing it. I did this for 1 week, and half my question is how long it takes to recover. I don't know what it would mean in terms of how long it takes to recover. I would look at mental health as a set of skills. It's not a place. OCD, right, is a practice. You sit there, a thought came up, and you started analyzing it. You can be recovered right now. A thought can come up, and you don't have to analyze it. It's just a skill, rather than seeing it as a state of being. It's the skill that things can come up, and you'll be oh yeah, that's an uncertainty. And we don't do anything with it. But that's always a choice. All we ever have, and this is so important to recognize, everybody can be recovered right now. Because all we ever have is a choice in that moment to either do a bunch of controlling and checking and coping, or look at the context around us and give our time and energy to the things we value. We only ever have that choice. there is no point that we get to where that choice disappears. In each moment, we always get to choose what we're going to give our time and energy to. If we start throwing it over reactively to fear and controlling uncertainty, at first it may seem fine. It's going to build and build and build, and then we'll be back into like the deep pit of, constantly controlling fears. Or in the next moment, we can notice some uncertainty, we can notice some feeling, the urge to fix it, and we can choose what we want to give our time and energy to. So we all have that choice. Oh, so Moomin, I don't know if you did this on purpose, but you just asked the same question multiple times. So, you said you were not able to identify a mental compulsion, but whatever made you think that it would be a good idea to post the same question multiple times, that's an example. The thought process you went through, we're like, he's 10 questions behind my question, so I will add 3 more questions to the queue. That is a good idea. Like the thought process behind that, those were the mental compulsions. Stefan said, a challenge I run into again and again is feeling super anxious and frustrated after an activity. It's very difficult not to ruminate after about of what compulsions I did to feel. Oh, I see. To ruminate after about what compulsions I did to feel that way. So it's seeing, but again, being able to have that feeling we're having right now, see that urge, the brain going, oh, like you've got to go figure it out. I go, no, like, isn't it great that I can see that whatever I was doing, it's made me feel this way. Okay, instead, what do we want to do in the present? Because again, we are not time traveling janitors. We cannot go back and fix something. So if we were doing something that made us feel terrible, just like if we were slamming a frying pan into our face, and now our face is in pain, and our nose is bleeding, and our eyeballs have popped, isn't it great we can notice that? People say, oh, like, I don't want to keep doing that. Now let's go do something different. We've got to be able to walk away from it. So I always thought about it as a path. So absolutely there'll be things that take me off the path. And for whatever reason, our reaction to that is always to get more lost. It is like somebody who's out in the wilderness going hiking, and then they see some rock over there and they're like, I wonder what's under that rock. I want to go turn it over. And they go turn it over and there's nothing. Then they see another rock. They're like, oh, well, that rock didn't have anything. Maybe that rock has something. And they go over there and they like flip it over. And there's like a salamander and they wave to it, but it's not a rare salamander. So like, yeah, whatever. Oh, there's a rock. I'll go look under there. Maybe there's something special there. And they, chasing things. Then they realize, oh, wow, I've been chasing this hope of finding like magic treasure under a rock. And now I've taken myself off the path. Oh, that was a compulsion. I know what I'll do. I'll make myself more lost to punish myself for doing compulsions. That is not a good idea. And it is what we often do. We think like, oh, what I was doing was not good, so I will punish myself by making myself more lost. No, when we notice we have wandered off the path, get back on it. And we can just do that in the next moment. We don't have to make ourselves more lost. Oh, Max, I'm glad you can find that extra support here in the community. Deborah, my website is markfreeman.ca. Or you can find me on Instagram at markwfreeman. Stefan, yeah, you said, I find myself not wanting to do the activity again because of how I felt and acted. How can I learn to let terrible feelings after an anxiety just be there? It is going to be about doing that activity again. Because if we avoid it and we turn it into this like dangerous thing, we'll just keep avoiding more and more and more things. So instead though, one thing that can always be useful, and so I was explaining this to somebody the other day with hand washing compulsion, because I think sometimes our reaction to many compulsions or many things that created anxiety is to just cut it out. To understand there's always going to be a middle path. Because yeah, in the past, if we recognize, okay, so say I recognize I was washing my hands compulsively, like making them hurt, scalding hot water, whatever, again and again and again. We don't then say, okay, that's a compulsion, so you can never wash your hands again. Right? That would be the opposite extreme. No, there's a middle path. They're saying, like, actually, it's how you were doing it. It wasn't the thing that created the problem. It was how you did it. So, how can we do that action differently? And this is across the board. There's so many examples of this. But I think often our initial reaction is like, oh, I'm just going to cut that out. I'm never going to do it. But just seeing like that's the same extreme controlling behavior. And of course, then it's going to create more problems. Extreme control in either direction. Either I've got to do something again and again and again, or I can never do that thing. They're basically always going to cause the same problems. It's finding that middle path where we may do a thing, but we'll do it differently. Same with compulsions inside our head. Oak22 said, this is my first time catching you live. I really appreciate your efforts and help. Thank you so much. Oak22, thanks for joining us for the first time. It's great to have you with us. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, Stefan. Yeah, you said ruminating after a compulsion-filled activity seems only natural to figure out how to not do it again. When I try and ignore it, I feel like I'm ignoring my thoughts. Any advice? Yeah, Stefan, there is a video. I think it's actually maybe the most recent video on my YouTube channel of like a, not a live or a short, but it's on, this fear of, oh no, if I don't think about it, I'm suppressing the thoughts. So slightly different, but same pattern, right? The brain's always going to use that to like suck you back in. So no, like walk away from them. You already know how compulsions happen. There's going to be nothing new to learn by doing a bunch of compulsions on something that already happened. Lori, he said, do you think it would help procrastination issues to plan what you're going to do and when the day before? Yeah, it can be a huge help. I usually suggest people start not by trying to plan it all out, because that can be really challenging at first, but at first, so the day before, planning one activity that you're going to do at a particular time, and then just to get in the practice of doing something at a particular time with whatever feelings you're having. So you kind of commit to that one thing. I'm going to do that thing with wrong feelings. Like when that time comes, I want to feel like it's not a good time to do it, or I'd feel better if I did something else, and then do it. But also at first, start with some really light things. That you might put like, have a snack at 3:35. And so you may think, well, it's not work. But yeah, if we get in the practice of choosing and setting times first, then you can start to add in some more challenging things. And you'll already have started getting accustomed to it, and it can become much easier. Mike said, early in my journey, I thought I would come up with a novel solution to solve OCD, but I see now there's nothing to solve. The solution was to stop trying to find the answer. Life is amazing. It's really useful to recognize, right? Trying to add extra things, trying to solve a problem is very much the problem. But we can just drop it and walk away and go and live. So yeah, Mike, thanks for sharing that. Enjoy that living. Hugbad, you can see these messages you're sharing about your cousin. It sounds like you're dealing with a lot of hurt there, But as you can see, it is not useful to just like write out all of this ruminating in the chat window. So yeah, what would you rather give time and energy to? You can share about that. Philip, he said, I know you work with OCD and anxiety. Do you work with PTS and depression too? Not the labels are helpful. When do you expect your coaching to open? Also, do you recommend Discord or IG subscriber? Well, so I wouldn't say I work with any of those things. The first thing, if I'm taking somebody on and coaching, and we only start to work together if we get aligned on this, we have to agree on things we're going to grow and build, because I have nothing to do with any mental illness diagnosis labels. If you want to go after a problem, then absolutely, going to a therapist, psychologist, counselor, etc. What I work on with people is growing things. They want to grow. Do not start working with somebody until we agree on that and what we're going to work on growing. While we grow things, sure, we're going to handle different feelings that come up, different intrusive thoughts, all sorts of different experiences. But the focus has to be on what we're growing and building. Because again, like we were talking earlier on, I don't know if you caught it, like if the focus is on just like fixing a problem or trying to fix something we don't like, we put that thing at the center. So it's necessary for success. But then it's also very limiting. If we're just trying to get rid of something we dislike, doesn't mean we're going to grow anything we do like. In terms of when coaching will open, it'll probably takes 4 or 5 months, because also I am doing a bunch of workshops and meetups this summer in Europe. We'll start, and Turkey. So we'll start in Turkey. Turkey's part of Europe, and head into the summer, starting in April. And then we'll do a bunch of events all through May in London. And then after that, June, July, we'll have some other meetups and things like that. So keep an eye out for those. Also, too, if anybody in Europe, you have any, mental health charities, organizations, things like that, anything related, if you're already familiar with what I do, if you'd like to connect around doing some kind of event or something like that, reach out. There's a bunch of different possibilities there. But keep an eye out for when things will be happening. There'll definitely be a lot of information on the Discord server. So Philip, you also asked about Discord or IG, very, very different. The Discord server, amazing community, peer support community of people supporting each other, sharing about their adventures in life, and really building skills. I recommend joining that to anybody that is looking to work on skills, right? It was specifically created because most support groups online are around a diagnosis, a label. They are a problem. Like, they are for having the problem, not building skills. So the mental fitness Discord server is really about how do we gather support around where we want to go, rather than making social connection dependent on things we want to leave behind. So it's just phenomenal group of people there. So that's what that's for. And then the Instagram subscriber channel is quite different. That is like you could look at it as kind of like almost like an ebook. Like each post there's much more text, there's much more detail, there's many more videos, and they're all customized to different questions and topics that subscribers have asked about, and things that I think are related or relevant to the topics that they've asked about. So that becomes, the intention is that becomes a customized self-help resource. So that's much more intended to replace the coaching. Because coaching becomes really inaccessible. Like the focus of my work, I've always wanted it to be about how do you make recovery more accessible. So I'm actually working on a bunch of online courses right now too, to get done before doing the tour coming up in Europe. But that's also so that, people don't have to wait to work with somebody one-on-one. There's like a course there that'll walk you through all the steps. Research shows that peer support, online, self-directed, self-help resources are just as effective as working with somebody one-on-one. So long-term, coaching spaces will open up again, but I also don't think it's the best model. Our mental health care system is very inaccessible, in a large part because we have this idea like you have to work one-on-one with a person. That would be like saying like physical fitness, everybody has to work with a doctor. That would make physical fitness incredibly inaccessible. But we recognize, no, like the principles and practices of physical fitness, you can watch a video on YouTube and then apply them. We can do the same with mental health and fitness. So coaching will open up again, but it is a huge priority of mine to make sure that I replace it. Like that's just really, really important that it gets replaced so that mental health and fitness is more accessible. OG22, is there any advice you can give about feeling tired randomly, including not long after waking up? I was finding this distressing, but doctors' tests showed no reason behind it. So one of the things is that it's really common, especially as you're making changes, that we also end up changing our relationship with tiredness. And you can see, like the brain can love to make us do compulsions around it, to go checking, trying to control it. It was definitely part of my journey too, because I did all sorts of things around controlling sleep, right? Think like, I can't go do that right now, or I've got to like go, chug a couple Red Bulls or something. Like I've got to get rid of this feeling. And it was really interesting to explore how to be tired and bringing tiredness along in the same way I would bring anxiety along. And I had learned to do that. It could be interesting to explore tiredness. What would be wrong about being tired? How can you make other things easy to allow for being tired and still doing things that you value doing? How can you adjust some of the things you value doing, recognizing, I don't have the energy for that right now? Well, Mike, I appreciate the kind words. And go and enjoy the Super Bowl. Have a great day in Delaware. Chris Lays the Math Dragon said, is there a process you go through when ranking your values? I like to figure out my priorities, but struggle with deciding what to prioritize and what to drop. I would say not a special process. Like I would say I pick them, and I'll often look at the week ahead. And so there might be, if I look at the week ahead and I notice, there are some important things coming up this week, or there are some things I've kind of neglected. Let's elevate that, that particular value in priority. And so I'll just kind of look and then make a determination. But even, the sets of values, to begin with, we just pick them and we try. And so also I'll consider like, I've been really prioritizing this, but this particular value hasn't led to what I hoped it would lead to. Let's try something different. So we try things, and then we try more things. I don't know, somebody mentioned the sound earlier. I don't know if you can hear it now, but now there's a ton of fireworks happening outside. It almost sounds like it's pouring rain and thunder, but it's all fireworks. Kelly, thanks for dropping by. Indeed, we're always recovering. We always get that choice. In this moment, we can do some recovering. A. Vainberg, he said, how do we deal with OCD without giving it attention? So even attending these sessions or watching videos or reading books, I'm feeding my OCD. That's one of the things I'll often suggest to people. So once you've read a book, If somebody sends me a message saying, hey, I read your book, or I read this book, or just like, hey, can you tell me a book to go and read? Yeah, so important to get a book that's about something you value, and not saying like, oh, I value improving my mental health. No, like, if you value cooking, if you value knitting, if you value running, if you value knitting and cooking while running, get a book by someone who knits and cooks and runs. Giving that time and energy and seeing those opportunities about what we actually want to grow is so important. Same with videos. You get the urge, like, oh, I just got to watch another mental health video so I get a reminder. No, go, again, watch a knitting, cooking, running video. We don't have to work on OCD. We grow the things we actually want to see in life. And then we're obviously not doing all sorts of things. I'm not going to do some compulsions. I'm not going to hit myself in the face with a frying pan. I can think of countless other horrible things I'm not going to do because I'm going to go knit a sweater for my hot water heater sitting over there on the counter. I guess calling it a hot water heater sounds like a big thing. I mean, like the hot water heater the hot water dispenser, maybe is a better word. We spend a lot of time together. My hot water heater gives me hot water for tea every day. It just sits there. Oh, Albus, thanks for the tip about the sound and wishing you a great day. I hope you're having a great day too. Kelly, a wave to you. Oh, I'm grateful for you stopping by and sharing. I'm glad we're back to chair spinning videos. I appreciate those. Thanks so much. Moomin. So so I see the messages you shared there, but I would disagree with a lot of what you're sharing. Also, again, you can see like an external physical compulsion just in the number of times you shared the same message over and over again, even though it was clear that I was, further up in the chat window. So it could really help to, if you can connect with a therapist, somebody you can talk through those things. Because there's a lot in what you shared there where I would have a lot of questions. And Kelly sharing here, related to getting back on the path. She said, yes, and bring in whatever supports you need to help guide you back to the path. In the event you get lost in the weeds, I have some recent experience there. Getting back on the path was and is the work. Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Kelly. OCD Suomi, I hope you're having a good weekend. He said, any good advice on ERP to do it without the goal to get less anxiety? Able to do anything with every emotion and feeling, right? Any other good advice? I'm starting the B4DT in 2 days. Oh, what is the B for DT? Is that the... Oh, yeah, can you... I can't... Is that the 4-day... Because I'm forgetting the name of the town that it's named after. Is that what that is? Jonas? Yeah. But when it comes to the goal... Bergen. Yeah, is that what it's... Yeah, is that what you were doing? Enjoy that. I look forward to hearing how it is. I wondered where that's at the moment. When it comes to doing ERP, I would look at those things that we really want to be able to do. And so even if even if there is something that we're really gonna do just to cut out a compulsion, I would still approach it like an extreme sport. And you kind of make a joke out of it, sort of. Like, for instance, one that springs to mind is when I was doing therapy, when I was really struggling, I would not leave a pot on the stove unless I was directly in front of the stove. Like, I would just have to stand there. Like, for whatever, it just felt like I was doing something wrong and something terrible would happen if I just stepped away. And by stepped away, I don't mean like even to the other room or something. I mean like just stepped to the side, like the counter, we'd think would be like a normal thing, kind of necessary when you're cooking. You put a pot on and you go and cut something up. No, I was not doing that. And so it was really useful. Like it was doing it actually, like putting a pot on the stove and then stepping to the side. And then it'd be like a lot of anxiety that I was like doing something wrong. But yeah, it really helped to like want to be good at that. So what I mean, like making a joke out of it, making extreme sport, like I want to be the best at standing to the side of the stove. I don't have to fix anything else. I want to be able to do this wild thing. With the compulsions, with the ERP you're going to be doing, do you see ways you could turn them into hilarious extreme sports that you would like to be the champion of? And so that's for those ones where we are just going to kind of do it as an exposure, just because we know there's a compulsion there, we're going to cut it out. For a lot of others, though, then I would look just at what is the thing I actually want to be doing? Like, what's the thing I want to be giving? So for a lot of other cooking ones, it was just, I want to be able to cook a meal for friends. And then whatever the brain threw up, I would say, no, like, I want to be able to cook a meal for friends. We're going to do this because there is a thing I value doing, and we're going to risk whatever the brain is saying right now. So yeah, I would look at two of those. Yeah, sometimes having a really clear value about something we want to give to the world. Other times, you just turn it into a hilarious extreme sport. Pom Pom Kitty said, any tips on beating phone addiction and checking? I feel like I'm always overstimulated because of it and unintentionally check my phone sometimes. Yeah, so one of the things I always encourage people to look at is, when do you start looking at your phone? If you can do anything to make sure the phone is not the first thing you start checking. Because if we check our phone first thing in the morning, it is like there's a puppy in our brain and we wake it up and immediately we're telling it to like bark and jump and do things. And it's gonna bark and jump and do things all day. So one thing is that. Also, then to just practice, like setting a time where you're gonna have your phone with you and you say, for this next half hour, I'm not gonna check my phone. Every time I get the urge to check it, I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna do something else. And identifying what that other thing is. And then you just practice and you build over time. Chuck said, how can I deal with the fear of something going wrong on a date? Trust in yourself. And that's not trusting ourselves like, oh, I trust myself to do it perfectly. No, it's saying like, hey, this guy, things may go wrong on the date. And by that means he may judge something as going wrong on the date. And I trust him to handle it. I trust him to explore that. So also, it's possible that you may have a goal around dates that's really unhelpful. Because if you have a goal of keeping some date perfectly clean, so in this case, going right is like the clean thing you're chasing. If your goal is that it has to go right, you're going to constantly be judging things as wrong. And that trying to control it and make it go right is also almost 1000% guaranteed to make it go wrong. So yeah, what would be a goal for a date that would be an action you are in charge of? So rather than picking a goal that requires a bunch of things to go perfectly, what is something you want to give that you are entirely in charge of? You can just give that. Michael said, with new awareness of how much mental illness has impacted my life, I fantasize about writing a blog post and sending to all family, friends, exes so they know. But it's a controlling compulsion. Yeah, it's that cleaning the past we were talking about at the start. How can I stomach the loss and let go? I'm so indignant that OCD has kept me on a futile chase for certainty through years of failed talk therapy, increasing isolation, lost relationships. Yeah, I don't know if you caught it earlier, Michael, we were talking about exactly this, like touching that from the past, and then rather than trying to be this time traveling janitor who's like, oh, everybody, I'm gonna go clean all of these past memories of me. Instead, we see those things that matter to us. So you were mentioning that, like the amount of time spent, isolation, relationships. So you don't want to waste more time. So yeah, you don't have to waste more time on this. Relationships are important to you. You don't want to be isolated. Pivoting to actually giving and creating those. We see what matters to us. The way to approach it isn't to go find some magic cleaning solution to the past. It's to start building that stuff and celebrate that we have that awareness. It's amazing that you can see those things are important to you. It's amazing you can see you don't want to spend any more time chasing after the brain, and you don't have to. Max, he said, I try to use my faith as a way to let go. Like, I convince myself that all my obsessions are not for me to solve because God's will be done. Could this approach backfire, leading to scrupulosity? So that's the thing, that fear of, oh no, like what if I do something wrong and it, creates another theme or something like that. I would look more at that like checking for reassurance. I would be more, I would focus more on cutting that out. Like there's no way to know what you're going to find useful without trying it. But if you don't try it because you're afraid at first, oh no, like I don't trust myself to see if this is useful to me. That lack of trust or that lack of curiosity, that can create more challenges, I'd say. Oh, Erica, you said, am I going to visit Göbekli Tepe while I'm in Turkey? So I looked into it. Super interesting place. I would love to go. And even on this trip, so all later in the summer, be going to a similar place to Göbekli Tepe, but in the Orkney Islands, the Ness of Brodgar. Really looking forward to that. And so I thought about if I could fit in Göbekli Tepe, but I will not. I won't be able to on this. I'm kind of a pretty short amount of time to stop in Turkey this time. But yeah, I'd really like to go and visit the site. And there's other sites they've now found around it. Absolutely, really, it sounds like a really interesting place. And when I see, the carvings of animals that people used to make back in the day, I see that art and I'm like, I am inspired by their art. They made cute animals the first times we started carving animals. Emily said, I started a new job. Oh, he said, and I already have to report sexual harassment. Oh, I'm really sorry. The next day I found out my coworker has been engaging in inappropriate behavior with our residents. Oh, I work at a nursing home. Oh, Emily, I'm so sorry. I hope the nursing home is supporting you in this and taking care of it. Oh, Max, I appreciate the kind words. Oh, saying thank you online, this is enough. Thank you. Yes, to join the server, if you send me, a DM on Instagram or an email through my website, markfreeman.ca, I can send an invite link. But you have to use it for building and creating things. We do have a strict no reassurance policy on the server. Scott said, I keep getting caught in mental compulsions, and doing them drags me into an even worse scenario. Sometimes the reaction is automatic, but sometimes I'm aware of what I'm doing. I'm starting to realize that walking away when I catch myself with the frying pan is really important. Yes, it's called, you see it there. Like when we notice it, for whatever reason, it feels like we've got to keep doing it, and somehow, oh, if I just hit myself with the frying pan more, that's going to somehow improve the situation, but it will not. And it feels so wrong. Like I know that feeling. It feels so. I often felt like I had to pick up my brain and carry it to another room. And so that's why going back to the idea, making change tangible and persistent, really important, because in that moment, everything inside of us wants to go and do the old habits, wants to go and do the old compulsions, wants to go down the path that's not going to be helpful. So anything that can help us outside of our heads, if we can see a signpost, if things are set up to make it easier to make different choices, it's like having things around that we can choose to pick up instead of, for instance, our phones or whatever we're going to do compulsions with, is so useful. Yeah. Oh, Emily, he said here, anyways, I feel insecure and like I'm being a problem with constantly reporting these obvious unhealthy behaviors. I'm aligning with my values, but I feel so worn out. I guess my question is, how do we support ourselves through challenging times? Yeah, I mean, that's why it's really key that the administration of the home is supporting you through this. If they're not, so if you're part of any kind of professional association, if there are any Facebook groups or any communities for people who work in the same role as you, I really recommend joining a group like that and mentioning what's going on, asking for support from other people who have gone through similar situations, gathering whatever supports are going to be really useful. Because it is when you're advocating for people in a vulnerable situation, if the systems around you aren't supporting those people and supporting you, that is really stressful. It's also really not, it's a really terrible situation that they're facilitating that in the facility. So whatever supports in your local area that are going to help you, definitely. And actually it might be supports that are in different places as well, because there are definitely, unfortunately, people who have had the same experience that you're having, and connecting with them, finding out, how they handled it, what helped them, just being able to talk about it and get support from others can be really helpful. So I'm really sorry. You've had to experience that. I really hope you find support with that and are supported through, doing what's, really best for the residents. So thank you for doing that. A Veinberg, yes, are you accessible when you're taking the courses? That'd be like the online courses coming up. It's set up like an online course. So there's you can ask questions, send me messages and things like that. And then you ask, what are your thoughts on CBT? I have totally rational thoughts on CBT, not distorted thoughts. And CBT is really a catch-all term. So actually, it's really broad. It's really important. If a therapist says, "I do CBT," it's really important to ask them what they mean by that, because CBT just means cognitive and behavioral therapy. So any therapy that involves making changes in what we do in our heads and making changes in behavior. And so ACT is a type of CBT. ACT is what's known as the third wave of CBT. So there's been multiple types of cognitive and behavioral therapies over many decades. So really important, if somebody says, "Oh, I do CBT," you gotta find out what they mean by that. Because it's the same as somebody, you go into a gym and the trainer says, "I do exercise." It doesn't tell you what the exercises are. Oh, OG 22. Yeah, you mentioned the tiredness earlier, and they said, yeah, I seem to have a bunch of the stomach issues you mentioned having as well. It's really natural that it moves into our body in a way that, yeah, science research has looked into but hasn't really explained exactly what's going on. Kelly, so actually we were mentioning the book earlier about knitting, cooking, and running. Kelly's writing that book. Thank you, Kelly. Oh, Ken said, I used to be in a cult and fear being coerced and manipulated. Communicating with people sometimes triggers it when someone lies or things are inconsistent. Oh, you're awesome. Oh, well, thanks for the kind words, Ken. But yeah, be kind to yourself. Like, in those moments when you've had an experience like that, like really, like being in a cult, being manipulated, that's a painful experience. So it's really natural to have the brain be like overprotective around anything that seems remotely similar. So that's that opportunity to give that self a hug, that self experience that. Yeah, it's understandable to run into that. Even yes, you have to do something from the books and things you read. And then Sharma, I hope you're doing well too. Oh, if you said, why do so many therapists seem unhelpful? It makes me feel hopeless. There's lots of great therapists out there. Said, how do you get over the illness anxiety of having a serious mental illness? Well, so yeah, one is seeing like take a step back and see like it is just a classic pattern. Whatever the bad thing is that we want to control, right? The brain's gonna latch onto that. But with anything, right? We can want it. So I'd look at what the consequences that you're afraid of. So if you had a very serious bad mental illness, what are you afraid that would lead to? So for instance, it's very common that people are afraid, oh no, I'm going to relapse, or I'm going to get triggered, I'm going to end up losing control, or I'm going to end up in a psychiatric ward, and I'm going to have control taken away from me. So it's very common when we work on this to say, okay, fine, actually tomorrow I'm going to get taken away to the psychiatric hospital. Today is my last day of freedom. My last day, I get to choose what I eat, I get to choose what I wear, I get to sleep in a room without a camera watching me. Today is my last day. So what do I want to do today to live my life rather than spending it on compulsions? Because once I'm in the psych hospital, I'll have all the time in the world to do compulsions. But right now I want to live my life. So I'm going to go do that. And so we take away the debate from the brain, because the brain wants to debate it. Hey, let's make sure we don't have a serious mental illness. Let's think of all the reasons. Oh, let's check this. Oh, does that feel like psychosis? Ooh. But if we take it away, we're like, no, brain, like tomorrow tomorrow it's done. There's nothing we can do to change it. Then there's nothing to check. There's nothing to control. There's nothing to ruminate on. Jordan, welcome. Good day to you. So I just wanted to get on here and give some words of encouragement. Doing the healthy practices may not seem easy at times, but my goodness, it is so rewarding when you're on the other side of the mental illness struggles. I used to struggle hard, and now I don't. You can absolutely do it. Don't listen to the brain tell you your story is different. Oh, Jordan, thanks so much for sharing that. Oh, yeah. And also a huge thank you to Mark for taking the time to put these resources out there for us and giving your time on these Q&As. Oh, they're so helpful to many. Much gratitude and appreciation. Oh, Jordan, much gratitude to you. Thank you so much for stopping by to share that with everybody. You took on those skills and like really explored like really intense hard work and changes. Enjoy the steps ahead. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with everybody. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the rest of the weekend. Kimberly, thank you so much for the donation. And the big thanks character. I appreciate it. Yeah, thanks for stopping by today and sharing. And Gabriel shared a donut. Gabriel, thank you for sharing a donut. Luna. Oh, Luna, I'm sorry to hear about this. She said, I'm leaving a spiritually coercive Buddhist group. How can I separate meditation and practice from the teacher who took advantage of me? It's thrown it all into question for me. Oh, I'm really sorry you had that experience, Luna. Yeah, it can be really helpful to take whatever distance you would find helpful right now. Like, not when you've had a chance to get some space from that group, because I think, yeah, you said you're leaving. Like right now, it sounds like you're still in the process of this. So yeah, meditation, like the idea of a coercive Buddhist group is like doesn't even make sense, right? In that, like, they must have been like, yeah, like really taking these teachings and just using them for manipulation and coercing people is so terrible. Meditation will still be there, but there's no rush. When you've had a chance to get out, when you're safe, when you've had a chance to bring supports together that are useful to you, if you want to explore some of these, there can totally be opportunities to making them your own, right? And that can be part of the process of healing the trauma, to reclaim the things that are part of your life, that don't have to be connected and tainted by that group and the abuse. Yeah, so I really hope you're finding supports. I hope you're finding ways to be safe right now, especially in whatever practices you're exploring. But yeah, there's no rush. Yeah, take care of yourself. Max, thanks for dropping by. Bogus Binted, you're on time. A. Vanberg, yeah, he said, do you view the label of mental illness as problematic in itself? Like something is wrong with us. We are damaged and need to be fixed. Yeah, so I don't find it useful at all. Same, like we don't approach physical fitness that way. But if somebody doesn't do cardio, we don't say they have an endurance disorder. But they are physically incapable of doing many things. We recognize that, if you don't have a practice of building that capacity, you don't have it. It's just normal. And so I think we really screwed up by approaching mental health very differently. With mental health, if you haven't been doing anything to build a skill, and you struggle with that skill, as you should, we label you as having an illness. And that's really weird. Pridyanshu, you said, I pretty much cut out all physical compulsions, but still find myself doing a lot of mental compulsions. I've been practicing mindfulness and meditating, but is there any other thing I can do? So I'd be curious about what you mean by other thing I can do. Because mental compulsions will be more of an undoing. So like, if you sit to meditate, do you cut out the mental compulsions? Because one way in mindfulness too, you could look at meditation and mindfulness are the product of not doing all of the stuff we usually do in our heads. It's kind of like that's how I would say I found meditation and mindfulness really useful for understanding how to do things differently in my head, because meditation and mindfulness required me to not do all of the judging and checking and controlling and time traveling. So I would say mindfulness is the result of not doing mental compulsions. If you want to bring that into everyday life, you can do that. Like, everything is the practice. Bogus Binti, you said, how is OCD not an anxiety disorder, but it is literally anxiety though, except it's not. So generally, right, I'm not a fan of the DSM, but I think separating OCD from the anxiety disorders was a rare and unusual smart thing for them to do. A lot of the compulsions are things people like. Anxiety, just like, I don't know if you caught earlier, we were talking about tiredness. Anxiety is just one of the experiences, the unwanted experiences people will do compulsions around, but is only one of them. For instance, people will do compulsions around tiredness, guilt. They will do compulsions around things they crave, things they just want to control. People often will say, when I point out something as a compulsion, they'll be like, oh no, but I was just curious. I wasn't anxious. But it's not about curiosity. It's not about anxiety. It's definitely not about curiosity. It's, right, they were trying to get certainty. So often also OCD will just to be about chasing certainty or completeness, a certainty and completeness that's impossible. But they'll say they don't feel anxious. Michael, you said, thanks for your answer so far, Mark. Just an observation, your point around focusing on actions you can control in dating really helps. I've been in tears after recent dates, including one last night, because I feel I have done them wrong. It's led to a fear that I just can't make things happen with girls, and a lot of craving for emotional connection and validation from girls. Yeah, you see there, Michael, that getting. If we approach it as getting something, we're always going to feel like we didn't get it. And also trying to get it, like trying to get validation, trying to get connection, leads to us doing a lot of checking. And if we're just doing all that checking and judging, we just can't be present and there for the date. So yeah, it really helps to shift the focus just to what we want to give and only things we control. And then we just celebrate giving that. But it'll be concrete things, like not giving connection or something like that. Yeah. Enjoy the giving. Oh, Deborah, thanks for sending the message. I'll get back to you. Oh, and you subscribe to that G channel? Thank you. I'll see you there. Yep. I'll send you a message shortly and then send over any topics or questions or anything like that you'd like me to explore. So thank you. I look forward to adventuring together. Bogus Binted, you ask, what are the best foods you've ever tried in your life? This is a really wonderful question, because isn't it amazing that we do live in a world with so many delicious foods? At the same time, there's also so many people in the world right now who can't access all of these foods. Like, one of the things I would love so much for people in the world who, especially people who are trapped, like I think about people in Gaza right now, who for decades have not been able to travel freely. I enjoy that freedom to travel, that privilege to be able to move around as though borders don't really exist. It's amazing, right? We like that. We like that freedom to move and try things. And so I really hope everybody can. Because yeah, there's some really, really, truly amazing foods in the world. And it's difficult to say what are the best ones. I have had some really good foods. In general, everything in Mexico is amazing. We're so lucky. Also, like, think about planets in the universe. There's a lot of planets in the universe. We have yet to find a single planet that has life on it. We may be the only planet in the universe with a Mexico, with Mexican culture, Mexican food, Mexicans, like, wonderful, wonderful place. So delicious. So pretty much everything in Mexico. I have some favorites. in Japan, each kind of city or region has its own snack. And this is because there's a culture of gift giving when you travel anywhere. And so for centuries, Japan had a very vibrant domestic travel industry, people traveling around the islands. And it was very common that you would bring back a gift from the area you visited. And so that still persists. And so each area has its own, usually a food gift, and you cannot get that food gift outside of the area. And so my favorite, so they're called omiyage, which is just like gift, special gift. My favorite omiyage snack is yatsuhashi from Kyoto. And so the amazing thing is, it is also in Kyoto, so in a popular place. But it's my favorite, probably one of my favorite snacks in the world. So I really like yatsuhashi. So for today, there's so many more foods. We could spend the whole rest of the live stream just talking about food, but that'll be for now. Mexican food I miss a lot, and yatsuhashi. And everybody should have a chance to be able to go and get yatsuhashi and Mexican food. Vegan knowledge. I said, I'm struggling with how to stop my OCD type rituals, avoidance and living my life, and also trying to take advice, not fighting with OCD logically. I get in that to my brain. However, I can't in the moment make myself get it, that my thoughts are not important. Listening to you helps me a lot. I need to continue to work on my mental health. I'll have improvements, then it seems to get worse than ever. It's like OCD wants to stay with me and I don't want it. When I say it out loud, I sound illogical. However, intentionally it feels really real. Yeah, so vegan knowledge, maybe, I don't know specifically what you're running into, but look at whatever those changes are that you'd want to make. And then like I was talking earlier about, like, how do you get those changes outside of you? Because it really helped me to see, I can't trust my brain, or I can't trust myself to think of it in the moment. We've got to have the change somehow outside of us and in the environment, and the environment altered to help us make those choices. And that'll feel really uncomfortable. But yeah, look at, if you notice that you start to make a change, then you go back to doing something a way you don't want to do it, what would help make it easier to make a different choice? Joanna, he said, what to do when you start using exposure as a compulsion? I wouldn't say there'd be any special kind of thing, like it's a really common compulsion, but it's just like any other compulsion. It's like, you could look at it just as a reassurance compulsion, for instance. Like, it is like, I'm gonna go do this exposure now. It's just like, I'm gonna go look online to see if I have some horrible thing. It is the same. We're just spending time and energy on things we don't need to spend it on. So I would just look at, what do you want to spend time and energy on instead? And starting to notice that urge to go and do the exposure, and instead go and do something else. And then it's gonna feel risky. And then we can welcome that risk. Mud369, you're tuning in from the Middle East. Mud, welcome, it's great to hear from you. I said, no idea what I'm doing here. Oh, we're glad you're here. I hope you're having I hope there's some beautiful terrain around wherever you are. Kelly said, I recently started using a parts work model, IFS, to navigate trauma, but a surprising bonus was the way it has allowed me to see my brain and humanity with so much compassion. Mark, do you have any experience with IFS or other parts work models? Curious about your thoughts. I found it really aligns well with ACT and my spiritual practice, as the emphasis on embodying self is really just about being mindful and present. Yeah, not a significant amount. I do know, as like, and you've noticed yourself there, when people are working with like an IFS framework, or like approaching parts of themselves, especially after trauma, people find it really useful. But I don't have any yeah, particular experience or training in it. But yeah, I think with all of these tools, whatever we find that works really well, yeah, you tend to also see how they fit together. And it sounds like you're putting together a really great toolkit of not only tools, but then, yeah, also incorporating all of those different parts and experiences. So, yeah, thanks for sharing about that. Yeah, if there's anything you find really interesting in there and that you want to share, or yeah, if you have anything you think I should check out, yeah, please do send it over. I'd be interested. Because, yeah, if you're finding it useful, I'd probably be really excited to learn more about it. Makbul, I see you say, answer my question, please. I saw your question earlier, but I think it just said, can you help me? And so I don't know what you're looking for exactly. I know you mentioned that, like, yeah, you have a fear when you're in a high place of jumping. But yeah, that's a fear you can have. What question are you looking for help with? Lloyd, he said, how would you practice accepting not being liked? Well, so I do stuff on the internet. So people tell me they don't like me all the time. That doesn't affect what I do. Like, the things I want to give, I'm going to give. And so that'd be one of the things to look at. What are those things you want to give? And then finding those opportunities to give and celebrating what we want to give as really an expression of ourselves. Sometimes, if we think that being ourselves needs to get externally validated, so we're looking for somebody to like us, because then we say, oh, okay, they like me, so I am okay. Then it becomes very difficult, because of course we don't control other people. And so it's very likely then that not like being disliked becomes very threatening, because we're basing ourselves around whether other people like us. So there might be a bit of a shift there to make. Yeah, what if, and so for the week ahead, what if it wasn't about being liked, but it was just about giving something that you wanted to give? And whether people like it or dislike it is irrelevant, it's just an expression of you. What would you like to give this week? And yeah, it could just be fun to explore a bit. Philip. So Philip, if you've been struggling with the fears around mental illness, yeah, so asking questions about the DSM, how would I know if these techniques are applicable to me? Yeah, you see it there. It's just that, like, chasing certainty. So yeah, it can really help to take a step back from the diagnosis, labels, and all of that kind of stuff, and really look at, what do you want to build? Separate from all of that. What do you want to be giving time and energy to? Because yeah, you can chase certainty around different techniques, different therapies, different labels. I mean, the labels can be really broad and vague. You could probably go through finding all sorts of different labels you could potentially slap on yourself. You could do that, but what would you rather give time and energy to? So rather than avoiding a bad thing, what is the good thing you want to grow? So assume tomorrow there were, so aliens come to the planet. These are really kind of cool aliens, but they just have one quirk, and that's on their planet. It's extremely offensive to use acronyms. So the DSM, of course, is like a horrible, scary thing to them. So it's completely outlawed. They destroy all of them, shoot their laser guns, no more DSMs, no more acronyms, no more diagnoses. So you can't have any acronyms stuck on you. What would you give your time and energy to now that the aliens have come and destroyed all the acronyms? Oh, Kyla's here mentioning IFS. Said, IFS is my favorite. I discovered it last year after a gnarly panic attack. Practicing in conjunction with Mark's work has been life-changing. After some time, I found that my brain had really adopted the IFS model as a default. It became so easy to see when parts are activated and practice compassion towards myself. Oh, God, thanks for sharing that. Yeah, this stuff sounds, definitely worth checking out further. Mud, absolutely. There's so much privilege being able to move around the world. So many people cannot move around the world. And that's just so weird. Like, we like moving around the world. I think it makes sense for everybody on here. Yeah, if you like moving around the world, advocate for policies in your country that allow other people to move around the world, because we like that. Oh, and then Kelly here explaining more about IFS, saying, yay, I'm very new to it, but wow, self-compassion has historically been hard for me, and IFS has really allowed me to do a 180 in that realm. That sounds great. Yeah, because that, being able to give compassion to ourselves, being able to give that hug to that younger self who's just reacting in the only way they knew how, that sounds really useful. Yeah, if you have any IFS links to any resources you think I should check out, please do send it over. It sounds great. Yeah, Kayla explaining more here says, yeah, it's like it bakes in the space we need from the intense feelings in order to let useful resources in empathy, compassion, care for the self. I've always struggled with self-compassion as well, and this formula helps me move through those barriers with more ease. I hope you enjoy your continued explorations. Oh, thanks for sharing about that, both of you. And Velociraptor, always thank you for doing what you do. Thank you for stopping by and the donation to Velociraptor. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. L, yeah, you said, I've done ERP for a few months now. How did you ease out of exposures? So I approach ERP as doing the things we want to do in life. So I'd really look like, if you were doing exposures kind of separate from life, I'd really start to look at, what are those things you want to be doing in life? And also to make sure like those skills, the response prevention piece, the cutting out the compulsion, making sure you know how to apply that in real life. So yeah, when you mentioned easing out, if you were doing it with a therapist, talk to them about that. I'd be curious about why it feels like a thing you need to ease out of. And so, yeah, if you were doing it as a compulsion, like, oh, I've got to do these exposures and like kind of like chasing a feeling, trying to get rid of a feeling, then to apply ERP. So it is going to be about like noticing that urge. Oh, I've got to go do these. Like, okay, I noticed that urge to do a compulsion. I'm not going to do it. The response prevention piece. I'm going to choose something that's actually going to grow things I want to see in my life. And so, yeah, you'd probably build that. You could build that over several weeks, approaching exposure as a compulsion. Oh, and Philip, thanks so much for the donation too. I think, and yeah, Philip, that's your first coffee on the live stream. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for finding us today and sharing that and sharing the questions. Makbul, yes. So you said when I go to a height, example, going in a mall where I go to multiple floors above, then I get thoughts that I may jump from above. Yeah, it's really common. I experienced that too. But yeah, what you're sharing there is a thing that's extremely human, and it can happen. It doesn't need to get fixed. There's nothing to fix. Seeing it as this thing, oh no, what's this mean? How do I get rid of it? Yeah, you're in the mall. What do you want to do in the mall instead? The brain can throw up whatever it wants. I'm in Malaysia right now. Malaysia has amazing malls with, like massive, 8 floors with atriums in the middle. So you're often like looking down and they don't have very high railings. So I've actually shared some photos with community members before from malls in Malaysia, because this feeling you're describing is so common. We can have that feeling and notice it and go, I need to get a hat. Okay, I'm gonna go in the store and get a hat. Right? Because the brain can throw these things up, and that's okay. And we get to make choices about how we want to spend our time and energy. Sandra, I'm not sure I understand your question. Kelly, thank you for sending some stuff about IFS. Oh, yeah, if you're sharing some IG content, I look forward to it. Yeah, if you share some stuff, maybe even tag me and I can repost it too. Yeah, DP saying here, MacBook, years ago I used to have urges like that. It's scary, but it's common, just like Mark just said. Yeah, we can have stuff in our heads. And everyone, we'll wrap up soon. We've come up on the 2-hour mark, and we're down to the end of the chat. Thank you everybody for joining for a 2-hour adventure with brains. It's really great to connect with you all. Georgie, yeah, you said how to get over health anxiety. Well, we don't have to get over it, because it's so natural that we're anxious about our health, right? Of course we care about our health, but we don't have to spend time making it worse. Because health anxiety, that's the one where if we do compulsions, we're choosing to make our mental health worse, right? So health anxiety is where we react to an uncertainty about illness by choosing to make an illness worse, which is not a good plan. It is like reacting to an uncertainty of getting a cut on your arm by chopping off your arm. You'd be like, now I won't get a cut. It's not a good plan. So whatever actions you're doing to chase certainty and control around health anxiety, instead, that's an opportunity to notice, wow, I really care about my health because I really care about living my life. So what actions am I going to do this week to live my life? And that is a question that we can all consider. Because some of you, it's my Sunday evening. Some of you are starting out Sunday. So you have the whole Sunday ahead of you. You don't have to spend all Sunday thinking about it, but maybe, take 30 minutes. Like we're saying, draw out the journey for the week ahead. Draw it out. Make it tangible. Do not do this in your head. Do not think about it. See it. And then look at how can you make that journey easier this week? What supports are going to help you on that journey? Yeah, Sandra. So she said, I wanted to ask if I repeat a compulsion or magical thinking, after that I think everything is connected because I did that. Even if it's bad or good, how do I deal with this? Yeah, so I wouldn't see it as a thing to deal with. If you notice you did a bunch of compulsions, it's really natural when we do compulsions that the brain, it always felt like the brain starts spinning those machines. And so, yeah, then it's going to want to do more. It is going to, if it's magical thinking, it's going to start connecting more because the machine gets spun up. We've got to step back on the path. So if we recognize, okay, because I just did compulsions and now there's more pressure to do more compulsions, really common. Just like if somebody struggles with compulsions around alcohol or drugs, they do one, they're going to want to do more. Same with magical thinking. Letting that feel wrong and stepping back on the path. Yeah, we don't have to make ourselves feel more lost. Oh, Kelly, thank you so much for dropping by and sharing about resources and your adventures. Enjoy the present day night moments. Michael, you're welcome. Yeah, and everybody, thank you so much, everybody who donated. Yeah, it really helps with putting on these live streams. I really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for everybody asking questions and sharing about your very human adventures. Mac he wrote, but I avoid going to heights. The only reason you wrote that is because it's a compulsion and it's unhelpful. Kayla, thank you. thank you so much, yeah, Kayla as well, dropping by and sharing about resources that have been really helpful to you. That is, yeah, it's so, everybody, a bunch of people that, like, sharing about resources you find helpful. Jordan dropping by, sharing about how things are going in their life right now. Yeah, it is really great to see everybody gathering together the resources that really help you support yourselves. So yeah, I know we had a bunch of people share about challenges they've come into recently. Please do, connect with others, support yourself, find those resources in the community that can help you do that. Yeah, so thank you. And to Last Raptor, thank you so much for the donation to wrap things up. I really appreciate it. That was very kind of you. I hope you have a great start to the week ahead. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day and or night. Oh, and TP, also, you got, TP, that was your first donation on live stream, and you got a hippo in there fast at the end. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great start to the week. And yeah, of course, everybody reach out online if you have any questions or anything like that, or down in the comments down below, because the video will be up on YouTube after. All right, thank you, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.